this tape for you, Jimmy, to help you with your pinched nerve. Or a lot of people have difficulty with some nerve or many of the nerves in this bundle. And I have a feeling that's what it is with you, the sciatica. And I have had injuries, Cliff has had injuries where we could hardly walk, especially when I came back from Newfoundland and did a lot of climbing, and I went already with an injury that I got working in the yard. So I understand injuries, and I understand what it takes to get out of it. What I had to do is I would wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, several mornings, and I would soak in salt water. If you can do that, that would help. But I also did certain exercises that I taught Cliff when he had his problems, and I'll let him discuss that in the beginning. So all these issues with leg pain, back pain, leg swelling, all these issues need to be directed, and I have a specific set of exercises that Cliff used, that I use, that bring you out of this. And they're easy, they're something you don't have to spend a lot of time doing, and you don't have to dress a certain way, you don't have to have any special music, you don't have to have any special area, you can do them in public and you're not being noticed. But they will help. And I'll be talking to you because I want you to understand why they help. A lot of people don't understand that Tai Chi is not just an exercise to be healthy, it's a martial art. But so many people in China took it as their Kung Fu that they ended up being so healthy by the 4th level, they didn't care if they continued it to master it as a fighting art, because it takes many levels to get to that point. However, these exercises will definitely help the soft tissue surrounding the jointed areas. Cartilage, ligaments, tendons, all those things are ignored. People lift weights, people run, people do things, but they don't understand that you must have loose, soft tissue around all the jointed areas, long, elastic-like ligaments and tendons. And like a rubber band, a ligament stretches and compresses and is loose and has mobility and allows the joints to do their work. If you have weak or dry or short or unlubricated, that's where all the squeaking in old people comes from. Ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and soft tissue, it doesn't matter how big your muscle is, it's useless if the joint doesn't work. It's like having a giant beautiful wooden door, expensive, giant, beautiful wooden oak door with rusty hinges. What's the point? So I want to show you how to deal with these things. And first I want to address these questions that I asked every single student that came to my class, new student over 20 years. I asked them 3 questions to help them understand what Tai Chi really is. The first question I always ask is, what does the heart do? And everybody seems to know an answer. It helps you move blood, it pumps the blood, and so on and so forth. However, that's a half an answer, and it's half wrong. The heart's only purpose is to pump blood up. Up your legs, up to the head, up, because gravity can take care of the rest of the delivery system. So this exercise that I'm going to teach will help you to facilitate the heart and help it do its job, thereby putting relief on the heart and allowing better blood flow. And in this exercise I teach people, it's called the figure 8. I will teach you, it's very simple. And it really made a difference in my life, and Cliff's sciatica, and Cliff's swollen legs, and all these other elements that he suffered. And without medication, and probably a few minutes every now and then throughout the day. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the breathing. Everybody knows that when you get uptight or you're tense or you're stressed, somebody will come up saying, now take a deep breath, take a deep breath. And they're right. Because when you deep breathe, inhale, it's when you exhale that you actually relax. And in relaxing, the body has a better opportunity to take care of whatever business, mental, physical, or whatever in you. Now, I give a simple test to all the students. I make them tense up, the new students, so they understand the importance of breathing and proper breathing. Tense up, create tension in their body, real tense, and then exhale. It's impossible by anatomical terms on any level. You try it. It is impossible to exhale while you're tense. Likewise, I tell them to relax, get loose, and don't use any muscles, just relax and inhale. You can't inhale without using your diaphragm and other muscles. This is the key center of Tai Chi and martial arts. Exhale, in boxing, in any kind of a fighting art. You exhale when you deliver. You inhale to build the energy or to build the tension. And in Tai Chi, you're twisting and turning all these ligaments and tendons and cartilages and delivering energy through it, just like the universe works on a spiral. It doesn't work in a flat plane in a linear motion. So these exercises I'm showing you are going to deliver your blood better, loosen up the areas that are tight around these nerves that are pinching, and allow you some opportunity to gain mobility. And it's all done without drugs and with a few minutes a day and free. It works. Cliff will explain to you. But I've had students that have had all kinds of issues, and they stuck in my class for 20 years plus because it worked for them. And the other thing is I try to help people understand is a moving object has no weight. This is physics. Tai Chi is all about physics, science, and anatomy. A moving object has no weights. So if you take a ball and you throw it in the air, that entire time it's moving, there is no weight. Once you catch it and hold it still, it gains its weight. That's just physics, it's the laws of physics. So one of the things that I always try to emphasize to people is never, ever, ever, for the rest of your life, stand still. Just don't stand still. When you do that, the entire weight of your body is carried on your hips, your knees, your ankles, your back, your lower back. But as long as you keep moving, as long as you do even the slightest amount of movement, keep in motion, those weights and those issues have a less of an opportunity to hurt you or to injure you. It'll also help alleviate injuries, but you can't do it with tension. You have to do it very loose and relaxed. So those are the issues I try to explain to the new students so they can understand exactly why Tai Chi requires specific breathing, specific relaxation done through breath, not through sitting back and having a beer and getting high, you know, yeah, I'm relaxed. No, it's about internal relaxing. So I want you to understand that these exercises I'm showing you and this discussion I'm having is primarily to help you really, really get a grip on the simplicity and easiness of these exercises, and that you can do them. For the heart, for the entire universal system of joints and moving parts, and for the back, the lower back. And the other thing I want to relate to you is this figure 8 exercise has been invaluable over the years. I have used this in so many occasions to help people who had difficulty. The most recent one being a woman that's been on a walker for many years, and her doctor said she would probably need to have it around her at all times, even though she was a young woman and used it. When I had to leave class right before the pandemic, the gentleman that took over my class, a good friend, a good student, he informed me that she no longer uses her walker. And I showed her just this exercise, nothing else, because it was important that she have no fear of falling, that she understood the breathing and understood the relaxation, and she started doing the exercises with the rest of the class, with her walker next to her for emergency. But her first thing was to do is to stay up against a wall, do this exercise, any other exercise that we do, whether it's upper body or lower, she could try, but if she felt uncomfortable, she could just collapse into the wall. The idea was the tension was the enemy here. So another lady that came to my class over 10 years ago, she had a huge humpback. The doctor, she had been carrying this for years since she was in her 40s. Slowly it was growing and growing and growing. Well, I talked to a student a year or so later, and I said, oh, and then there was Veronica with the humpback. She said, that's that lady over there. She goes, she doesn't have a humpback. I said, I know that. Because she did Tai Chi. She loosened and stretched ligaments and tendons and cartilage, let the body internally relax and start to fit back in place. Then there was the other lady that many years ago when Cliff was at his old job, about 18 years ago, a friend of his, Mona, came up and said, oh, my mother's doing so great with this, with her Parkinson's. So my mother's she's got back driving now, and she's going shopping. She wasn't able to do any of these things. I had to kind of take care of her because she had Parkinson's. and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. And Cliff said, and at that time, over 20 years ago, nobody even had any. There was one Tai Chi teacher in town, and that was way down in Coral Gables, Mr. and Mrs. Chow, who I went to for over 18 years. And everything was karate, and there wasn't that much down here. So when Cliff turned around to Mona and said, well, that's great, what happened? Oh, she's been going to these Tai Chi classes that AvMed put on for the older people. And he goes, really? I never heard there were classes. Where are these classes and this and that? She goes, oh, the AvMed puts it on. And he goes, who teaches that class? And she goes, some girl named Jude. And Cliff said, that's my wife, Mona. Because there were no teachers in Tai Chi except for a few people up in North Florida and this and that. And it turned out this woman had Parkinson's, and she never drove and didn't go shopping, and she was having a lot of difficulty. All she did was the Tai Chi exercises. This one, the one I'm talking about. And the other one, which would interest you, Jimmy, is there was a guy in his late 60s who was an avid runner all his life. His wife ran, his daughter ran. They always ran the marathon every year. He ran the marathon in New York every year, together as a family. And as it turned out, he just got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and his wife brought him to me because she'd heard about the class and asked me if there's anything I could do. I said, well, we could try. She goes, well, we're leaving in a month to watch my daughter run because he can't run and he's very depressed about his Parkinson's. So what happened was I took him aside from the class, and every time he came to class, they only came about 4 classes during the month. I taught him this one exercise that I want you to learn. That's all he knew, and I told him the biggest problem with Parkinson's people and people with disabilities like this is they can't stand more than a minute or 2 before they have to sit down. And it's very depressing and very debilitating. So I said, this exercise will allow you to stand for long periods of time, but you have to do it correctly. And you have to do it whenever you're up standing. You don't stand still, ever, ever again. So he did. His wife studied in the class, and he went on the side with me, and I worked with him on the side during the class, the first half hour, and then the rest of the hour and a half class, I worked with the class. Well, long story short, too late, his wife and him called me, and he was very upset. He tried to talk to me. This is months later, I forgot about him. He tried to talk to me, but he was very upset. His wife grabbed the phone, and I said, what is the matter with Peter? She goes, what is the matter? She said, well, he's very upset. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, we went to the marathon in New York, and it turned out that he was able to stand the entire time and watch his daughter come across the line. And he's so emotionally driven because a month or 2 ago, he never thought he'd leave Florida because he was so messed up with the Parkinson's. It came on fast. And she says, and this was a month or so before, and she said, and we're calling from Germany. I said, Germany? What's in Germany? She goes, my grandson just got married, and Peter and I danced every dance at the wedding. This is what this exercise did for a man who's been running all his life and got a sudden case of Parkinson's. And then, of course, as Denise couldn't lift her arms, her husband was a Vietnam vet. She got to go to my vet class. We had a free class for veterans. And now she's like this, her arms over her head, she's doing all kinds of things. So don't play this exercise short, Jimmy. And don't think that I'm making this stuff up. I don't toot my own horn. So now let's get busy. What I want to do is, I have several exercises that I'm going to have Cliff demonstrate, and I'm going to explain what they're doing. And then I'm going to demonstrate this particular exercise, which is very invaluable to you. So one exercise is for the heart, this one, and Cliff will show you. The other exercise is for the back, and it really relieves the lower back. But everything that you do, Jimmy, you have to pay attention to what your body is telling you. If you get a sharp pain or something, then back off. This is not about more pain, more gain. This is not a weightlifting class. If you have pain from this far, then you do it this far. It doesn't matter. When I went back to teaching, when I came back from Newfoundland when I was crippled, this has happened several times throughout the years. I could hardly walk. I'd get out of the car like this. By the time I walked my way into the gym, I did a few little exercises and talked to people while I was exercising and loosening up. I did the whole class. Nobody knew I was injured. But it was so bad that I could hardly get out of bed. I could not stand up from a chair. It took me forever to get across a room. And all this stuff really happened to me. But When I taught Cliff, when I was still injured from a really bad injury, and I was teaching Cliff Tai Chi during the pandemic, I would do some of the movements very small. I would do them very small, but I would do them. Like there was an exercise like this where you go ba da da and you move the hip. I couldn't even get this far without pain. So I would just do it in a modified way. Everything was modified. Well, I'm back to normal. Because I didn't force it. I have a rule with my class: if you feel pain or any kind of discomfort, back off. It's not about pain. So if holding my arm up like this hurts, then I'll hold it here. It's not about pain. So anything you do with these exercises, if it's difficult or you're losing your balance, then do it less, or use a wall for support. I'm okay. Oh, so use a wall for support or have a wall behind you so you can fall into it. But the thing is not to force anything, ever. It's not about that. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's been a lot of people that have benefited tremendously, and I always have been grateful. I gave up a career, I gave up office work, I gave up good jobs, everything, so I could teach this stuff the right way. There are a lot of slow motion people that think the world because they have the aura fluffing music, and it's quiet, and it's slow, and it's beautiful, and it's meditative. It has nothing to do with it. It's very scientific, it's very much associated with organic, and it's very much associated with the anatomy of your body and how it works. It does not work like hinges. You have rounded joints. So rounded joints, the movements are round, which Tai Chi is about circles because that's how your joints move. Your joints are not hinges on a door. Anyway, that's sidetracking. So I want to teach you this figure eight because it's very important to understand the inguinal crease, the crease here on your body. What passes through this crease, and I'm going to have a picture put into the video to show you. I use it all the time with my students to help them understand the figure eight exercise. The arteries and the veins, arteries having fresh blood from the lungs, and veins having the deoxygenated blood returning back to the heart and the lungs to get more oxygen. They both pass through this area, this crease. You can do this exercise a certain way, it crimps them. For example, now Jimmy, you know this about me, we're from a big family, toys were a luxury. In fact, toys were almost invisible. And one of the things my father emphasized, because he was a volunteer fireman, was never, 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 ever, ever touch matches or the hose, or we will get a good thrashing. As soon as he went out the door to work, Joe or Jack or Tom, one of them would run and get the hose, the first one to get the hose to turn it on, to wait for some poor sucker like me to be going to school in my new clean shirt, my hand-me-down clean shirt, and then hold the hose cramped up under his arm and wait for me to round the corner and then open it up. And you know when you do that, when you cramp a hose and you open it up, the water flows faster and harder. Or else you could just hold it like this and that would just kind of go out. But when you crimp it, it puts force. It's pure science. It puts force. That's how sprinkler systems work. And when you get zapped by a hose with the power of water, you understand what it's like to crimp a hose and then cut it loose. Well, the inguinal crease, when you turn your hip, boom, you have just crimped the artery or the vein, deoxygenated blood. When you undo that, it will allow the blood to go faster through the vessels. Now think about that. So this exercise does that. It crimps those hoses and then uncrimps them, so it boosts the blood. It actually helps the blood go faster upward, thereby alleviating the heart from the work of pushing it up by itself. It has help. You are actually assisting the heart to move the blood. Blood that has picked up oxygen from the lungs travels down the body extremities through the artery, passing through what is known as the inguinal crease, the hip area. And the inguinal crease is right between the hip bone and the bottom of the body. Now, just as a little sidebar, the entire time I've been talking, I've been doing that exercise. The entire time. I've been doing it in a small modified way, my public way, so people don't know I'm exercising. I do a lot of exercise while I'm standing still. The heart's one of them. A lot of things people can do to move their blood and to keep certain joints areas loose and to keep certain acupuncture points open. It's all about acupuncture meridians and points and chi delivery. So the idea is when you do the figure 8, which I'm doing now, in a bigger version, Cliff will show you, every time you turn your hip, you crimp the hose or the artery or the vein. When you go to the other side, you open it up and it gushes the blood back up to the lungs to get oxygen. So it's called a figure 8 because that's the only way I can identify it. If I went back and forth like this and you can't do the exercise, at the very least, you can do this when you're standing, just go back and forth. Keep moving. Moving object has no weight. But when I do the figure 8, I'm not moving my arms. Notice my arms make an 8 because that's the cycle your hip joint is turning. It's just a mirror image of what my hips are doing inside my body. I'm not moving my hands back and forth like this, they're just hanging. Right? So you know if you're doing that right, you know that you're doing the exercise right. And the way I help the students is I go next to them. Hey Cliff, come here and stand next to me so I can show them. When I have students in class and it's real awkward for them to do this exercise in front of me. And what I'll do is I'll have them stand with their feet apart, a little bit past the shoulder, a little bit wider, and I will move their body to one side, turn the hip, move it to the other side, turn the hip. And there I will help them. You have to be sure that all the weight is on one side, because when you turn the hip when it's weighted, it's called weight-bearing exercise. That's a new term of the 20th and 21st century, weight-bearing exercise. Tai Chi is always weight-bearing exercise because you do a lot of stuff on one side of the body. You see? He's not moving his head. He's not moving his spine. The spine stays straight, you see? The spine stays intact. That's the acupuncture meridian you don't want to break. You want to keep it aligned. Tai Chi is all about alignment of the meridians. You see? And he's relaxed. Now if I want to push him over, and I would just push him over. Thanks, Cliff. So you understand that is the exercise, and that is what I want you to understand. Even when we do the form, we don't do the form with our arms. We do the form with our hips, as in martial arts. Now right here, I'm turning my hip. Inhale, inhale, relax, exhale. So I want you to understand these exercises and the importance. So one of the things I'm going to show a picture of is your ankles. Around the bottom of the ankles are different various acupuncture points, that several of them along the meridian that leads to the heart. And other places, of course. So when you do anything that moves the foot like this, you stimulate them. I'm always moving my feet like this. And walking flat foot is horrible because you're not doing anything. You should always walk heel toe. So I have to have Cliff has walked flat-footed often, so I often have them do the heel-toe exercise. You see all my weights on one side, still on one side, toe down, shift the weight, weight-bearing. So this is to help you understand what's going on in these simple exercises. So when you do it, if you can do it this way, fine. If you do it just real small, till you start turning the hips and moving it, that will help too. And that's why I'm showing you these exercises and making this video, because I know it can help. But it's something that you don't have to do 15 minutes a day. You can go like any place, like you're standing out waiting for the mailman, you can do your figure 8s then. You're standing in line at the grocery store, you do your figure 8s then. You're standing and watching the birds play, you do your figure 8s then. It doesn't matter when, you should do it all the time. I never stand still. It's not a fidgety thing, it's a healthy thing. Standing still isn't. So at that, I'll leave you with those. I'll finish the video and I'll get it off to you, I hope. I think I covered what I wanted to say. I hope so. And get well, Jim. My best to Ruth and to Jamal. And Cliff, come over here and tell your story now. Yeah, it's okay. What happened was, in December 19, 29, I kept explaining to Cliff, your legs are red, they're swollen, this and that. This is what I teach, it's what I do. So for him to argue with me is useless. And he said, oh yeah, the sunburn, oh yeah, you know what, blah, 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 blah. No, there's something really wrong here. Now you have two choices. I'm going to drag you to the doctors, and I will drag him if I have to, or you can do everything I tell you to do. You have only those choices. And get well, Jim. My best to Ruth and to Jamal. And Cliff, come over here and tell your story now. Yeah, it's okay. What happened was, in December 19, 29, I kept explaining to Cliff, your legs are red, they're swollen, this and that. This is what I teach, it's what I do. So for him to argue with me is useless. And he said, oh yeah, the sunburn, oh yeah, you know what, blah, 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 blah. No, there's something really wrong here. Now you have two choices. I'm going to drag you to the doctors, and I will drag him if I have to, or you can do everything I tell you to do. You have only those choices. Both of us don't have much confidence in the medical industry. They're drug dealers by nature now. They're not happy if they don't give you a lot of scheduled things and things they can commercialize off, and you can't get an answer out of them. So we try very hard to work with ourselves. So I'll let Cliff explain to you his choice and why he made it, and we'll go through there.
Yep. Well, she gave me two choices. One is that I could she would work with me and work on getting it. The other one was to go to the doctors. So I chose to go with her because I'm afraid of her.
Time out. New York born, New York City girl, New York State person, do not diss me.
I'm not going to.
Do not diss me.
But it was the right decision.
Yeah, it did.
And
divorce is off the table.
One of the things, like she said, initially my legs were red from the
swollen
from the knees down, and that was for a while, and I thought it was sunburn. And then I did. She showed where they were swollen, and especially I think my left leg was a little more swollen than the other. So I think this was in early 2020. I began doing Tai Chi.
No.
Didn't want to go to the doctors.
No.
And doing exercises.
First you did the heart exercises for the heart, because of swollen legs, red legs. See, his legs are nice and red, but his whole body is red. That's because he's got good circulation now. But his legs were swollen, and that's clear indication of heart trouble. The heart cannot get the blood back to the lungs to absorb oxygen.
Well, and after doing those exercises,
so he did the heart exercises.
It probably within a couple weeks it went normal. Every once in a while I'd do something like sleep with my feet down on the floor and fall asleep watching TV, come back. But there were several things. One was doing the exercise, the other one was doing Tai Chi, and she also had me taking baths with salt baths. And that's been 2 years now that I've been doing this, or just about 2 years, and I haven't had it come back, and it's been working really well.
He has control over it too.
Yeah.
And in February of 2020.
Yeah. Well, so the swelling in my legs was fixed. It's been fixed for a long time. February 2020, I was getting ready to go on a business trip for our annual conference that we have. And one of the things I was doing over the weekend was helping Jude put in a couple of the clothesline poles. Well, in doing that, I was lifting the concrete, 80-pound bags of concrete that I used.
Look up here.
And I didn't notice it at first. I felt like I pulled my back a little muscle. And then by the time I got back, I started noticing I had a pain. And it basically was sciatica.
He couldn't walk.
And-
He won't tell you how bad it was.
Yeah, well, the part where it really got bad and scared me was when I got what they call drop foot. And my foot, you couldn't raise your foot and it would drag on the floor. So Jude started giving me some other exercises to do.
No, I gave you the choice again.
Yeah, so you gave me that choice.
Yeah.
And of course, not being a fool, I chose the right one.
Yeah. He chose not to get divorced.
And she started showing me the exercise that help with that, and it's gone. I haven't had sciatica. Once or twice when I do some heavy lifting, I felt a little twinge, and I'd start doing the exercises again, and I haven't had sciatica since. But it was a scary thing, and it hurt a lot.
And the point is, you have control of your illness. You don't have to depend on your medicine or drugs or a doctor.
Exactly. I never did any drugs for it or anything like that.
That's what's so good about all this. It gives you control of your body. It's certainly not going to, the doctors are not willing. Your body is willing to heal, but the doctors are not.
Yeah, and that's my story. It's a good one.
That's nice.
Thanks.
Thanks. Well, I wanted him to know that it's a real person here.
Oh yeah.
And he's a real knucklehead because I kept trying to tell him there's something wrong, and he has heart condition in his whole family, all the men. So I was very concerned. You know, so having control over your body is a good thing, because the doctors are not willing to help heal as much as they used to be. They're not about healing, they're about addicting people to their service. What is it, Cliff? Job security. You know, so it's job security. So the doctors are not willing, but your body is, because I haven't had an injury like this once or twice, many times. I've fallen off of roofs, I've fallen off of motorcycles, I've had all kinds of things where they said I wouldn't walk again. So I know the value of loose ligaments, tendons, cartilage, soft tissue, proper breathing, chi delivery, alignment of the things, and that is in the first book I wrote, Jimmy, What is Chi? That's what I talked about with Yen. He taught me a lot of things, and I also had my own stuff that I could incorporate into the language. So I want you to pay attention to what I told you, and if you forget, just rewind. If you get tired of watching talk, pause it and walk away. I wouldn't take this crap sitting down if I were you. But I do hope you get well. We both do.
Happy holidays.
And happy holidays, of course. Merry Christmas. And a Happy New Year.
When you do this exercise, make sure your shoulders are in line with your knees and your feet. Your hands are flat with the thumbs pressed against them. Place on the front of your legs, move it down to the top part of your kneecaps. Do not put them on your kneecaps. Stretch the butt out as you slowly keep your head down. Do not lift your head. When you're finished, relax your arms, come up slowly, keeping your head down, and come up to a full stance. And repeat this again. Be sure to have your head down. Stretching out your buttocks, do it slowly and don't push anything. The whole exercise is done very slowly and very relaxed. Very simple. You would take a deep breath, filling your chest, your stomach, as you raise your arms, making a circle, and slowly lower the arms as you exhale. This is a simple method called Wuji, which allows you to relax your body. When you do the figure eight, you want to be relaxed as much as possible, and you want to shift your weight all the way to one side and then turn the hip before you relax and go to the other side and turn the hip. After a while, they kind of turn on their own. Try not to force it. When he does a oblique stance, make sure your feet are where the two heels, when they run a line from the two heels, they come to a right angle. One foot is facing east and the other one would be facing north. Now he returns to the front position, and then he will do an oblique stance on the other side. You're always facing and looking between the distance of your feet. You're not turning your head. When you finish, just do a deep breath in as you raise your arms and make a big giant circle, and lower your hands and relax your shoulders. It's called Wuji. You do not lift your shoulders. This is the way I do the figure eight in public, quietly, privately. I can stand like this all day. Slow and easy and small.